Hello, welcome to Amigos Empower Hour. Today's topic is in-laws and extended family. So while I wait for folks to come in, I am going to go ahead and pin a pinned link, set up our topics. Welcome, everyone. So excited to see you here. And while I get the room started with the link and the topics, do me a favor and feel free to share the room. It's going to be a fun room talking about how we relate to in-laws and extended family. Nando. Oh shit. I sorry I cursed. Let me just tell you that I accidentally sent Nando down instead of modding him. So thank you, Nando. Sorry about that.
I did that to deny
This is
like earlier this week, so I totally get it.
one of my worst things is when I run a room, I forget to end the room and I leave quietly and then I'm like, shoot, and then I have to come back in and end it. Have you ever done that before? Oye, no se puede. Hold on. I'm so sorry. Hey, dale, ale, 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 ale. Let's see.
Yay, I'm back.
I am so excited to see you,
Oh,
girl.
me too.
So, go ahead, please, please,
No,
please.
I was gonna say that I'm excited to see you guys too.
I can't wait to hear about all your adventures. So what I'm doing right now, folks, is I was trying to pin our link, but it looks like the app is still having a bit of a glitch where what I understand is happening is that if you try to pin a link, the screen won't show you the submit button, so you can't really pin it. So what I have done in the meantime is if you go over to our chat, if you're unfamiliar with that, you can see at the bottom there is a little chat bubble. It has a little one at the bottom left. If you click on that, it'll swipe you over. I just pinned the Amigos Discord server link.
Oh,
And
sorry, Susie. I was like testing it out.
how did you do that, dear? Go ahead and
I was just testing it out, and I tried my website and it worked. Okay. Hold
oh, but
on.
I don't know why. Oh, let me try it now then. Because now it shows me the button to add link when I went to yours. Okay, beautiful. For
There it
some
is.
reason, when I went to it, yeah, 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 yeah. Thank you so much. You're awesome. I appreciate that. But as you can see, folks who are visiting, we're still just kind of setting up right now. So please invite your friends or anybody else who you think might be interested, share the room. We always have really awesome, empowered, and growth-minded conversations to help us empower ourselves in our lives. And today's topic is going to be in-laws and extended family. The the idea is that we love our people. We love, we marry or are in long-term relationships with people that we love, and then they have extended family or they have people, and sometimes it's not always easy to interact with them even though you love the people maybe you are coupled with. And when I think about extended family, maybe it's that uncle or that tia or somebody that it's like, well, I'm always going to see them, but maybe I don't love hanging out with them. So our goal today is to have a conversation about how do we empower ourselves when maybe we have a few challenging relationships. It's not necessarily people we see all the time, but when we do see them, it's something that we just want to create an empowered relationship with them. So my name's Susie Castellanos. I am a trauma-informed life coach. I work with BIPOC, which is Black, Indigenous people of color, including Latinos. I also work with white people, so y'all are welcome too. But and mostly with women. But again, I work with men. I just really happen to love my women of color. But I work with those of us who rose from challenging origins so that we can turn negative self-talk into confident action. I think a lot of us who come from nothing sometimes have some trauma to resolve, and sometimes we feel a lot of anxieties. So that's who I am. I would love to pass it over to our mods right now and let them introduce themselves and see where they're coming from. Nando, would you like to introduce yourself while I pin some topics? And Nando, I'm going to go ahead and skip you because you might be in the middle of something. I know you were working on video, so let me go to Ale. Ale, what would you like to quickly introduce yourself, let people know where you're coming from and what you want to share?
Sure. Um, so my name's Ale Cortina. I am a confidence and self love coach, and I live in Miami. I am a Mexican. That's a combination of Mexican and Cuban, and I live in Miami. And yeah, my passion and my purpose is to empower women, you know, to help them see that on the other side of fear, it's the person that they want to be. And I do that through monthly workshops and rooms here in Clubhouse. So yeah, I'm really excited to be here. I took a month and a half off from Clubhouse and social media, but I'm back, baby.
That's so awesome. Thank you. I'm so glad you're back. I just want to let you all know Nando mentioned that he's in listen mode for the next 15 minutes, but he is an awesome imposter syndrome breakthrough coach. And I know he's going to have great insights on this because he's very great on understanding, mindset. And basically, that's a lot of what we do here is understanding mindset. So I'd love to pass it over to Herman. Herman, would you like to introduce yourself for the folks?
Of course, yeah. Thank you, Susie, for having me. My name is German, and I'm an online dating photographer based in New York City. I work with a lot of single people. I also I partner up with like dating coaches and matchmakers, and their clients, if they don't have good photos, I help them out with photos for their online dating profiles. Um, I love to empower people that they feel really shy or uncomfortable being in front of the camera. And if you go to my reviews, the majority of my reviews that Herman made me feel at ease, or he put me at ease, and so because of that, I have such a fun photo shoot. And that's what I love doing. I am very passionate about online dating and helping people that they think that they're not photogenic, or they think that they are not X, Y, and Z to be in front of the camera. And then once I show them the photos, they get like so excited and empowered. And yeah, that's what I do. I'm in New York City, and if you have any questions about online dating photos, send me a message, and I'll pass it back to Susie.
Thank you, Herman. Julie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Susie. I'm Julie DeLuca Collins, and I am an author, speaker, and coach. I'm a business and life strategy coach, and I help individuals, especially women, to be able to create the business they want so they can go confidently in the direction of their dreams. My biggest takeaway, or my biggest focus, is in working with women entrepreneurs who may be really just uncertain and unsure of how to be able to build and grow the business they want for their lives. And not only do I help them create the right tools, find the right strategies, build all the out and ins and outs of a business, but I also help them figure out the stuff that happens on the inside, the thing that sabotages us and allows us to maybe trip up and not do the things that we want to, and grow and change and evolve and run a successful business or a career. So that is me, and thank you for having me. And I want to turn it over to Rodrigo, I guess.
Yep, sounds perfect, Rodrigo. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, everybody. My name is Rodrigo Bravo. I'm a licensed mediator here in the state of Texas. I practice locally in San Antonio and in Houston, Texas. I'm also a co parenting coach, consultant. I help folks navigate the tricky waters of co parenting.
Oh, it looks like you got a phone call coming in, Rodrigo. So we'll go ahead and come back to you when you're free. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and start the room.
He's getting a call from his in-laws, Susie, so you know he has to take it.
Sorry, Ale, you're breaking up a little. What did you say?
He's taking a call from his in-laws, so he has to take it.
I think Ale, you sound like you're in the Matrix, sweetie. Are you I'll go ahead and keep going then. And when Rodrigo, because it has his little phone thing on there, so I'm assuming part of it is just he's on the phone. So let's go ahead and get started. So as you know, we are in the Amigos Club. It's the largest Latinx group on Clubhouse, and all are welcome. You do not have to be Latino or Latina to be part of this group. And we have this room regularly, Empower Hour, every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, where we talk about different topics. And today we're going to talk about in-laws and extended family, simply because, as I noted at the top of the room, and for anybody who's just come in since then, sometimes we can love people but not really like them. and we need to spend time with them. So we want to give us the opportunity to share, like, what are our challenges and what are our, how have we learned to work with people that maybe we don't always want to be around, but can be challenging. And how are we able to do that, take care of ourselves emotionally, and still be able to be part of an extended family that maybe it's not the one you chose, but it's the one you have. So I wanted to just sort of ask that question. Would love to have people come up, share their experiences. Would anybody on the stage like to begin by sharing, are there any challenges maybe that you have seen yourself run into that you've been able to work through, or maybe some challenges that you're still working through and you want to like share with us and get some feedback? Who would like to begin?
I'm going to take the mic because this is a really fun conversation. When you told me you were having this conversation, I figure I could share a little bit of the tale of two marriages. I was married to my first husband for 10 years. We dated for 5, and you can be sure that his family are a big part of my life, even to this day after we've divorced. And, the one thing is that, the people that we marry are people who come with their extended family. And the most important thing that we can learn to do is to navigate these relationships, because they do have an impact not only in us but also in how we connect with each other in a relationship. I have to say that the learning to communicate effectively is very important. And for me, now that I am married to hashtag handsome hot husband Dan, I find it, I first found that I was very hesitant around his family because, well, I had such a great relationship with my initial in-laws and extended family that I really felt like a fish out of water. I moved from New York City to Connecticut, and my husband's family they live in a very rural area. And I found myself beginning to create all these false stories and beliefs about who they were, what they like, they don't like, that they wouldn't accept me. And I think that when we're dealing in improving family relationships, we really bring in a lot of our thoughts, a lot of our false beliefs. And it's very important to be able to notice what you're thinking, and then also be able to listen intently to people and get to know them, so that we also learn the right to be heard, be understood, be seen. But and it's something that requires practice. And ultimately, the people around you, your extended family, are the ones who are going to be some of the strongest, most strongest memories that you create throughout your lifetime, whether you're going from your family of origin into the family in which you marry into. So I'm going to pause my mic there and turn it back to you, Susie.
Oh, that is so good, Julie. And I was typing up notes is that, we bring in our assumptions a lot of the time, and part of the goal is to be open and communicate. Who else would like to share? And again, we'd love to have anybody else from the audience share your own experiences, any insights you have, anything that you're maybe challenged by. And again, also, please feel free to share the room so folks know it's available. Who would like to share from the stage? And I know some of y'all were in probably situations where you couldn't share very well, so I'm happy to go ahead and share my thoughts as well. While other people, oh, yep, and Luz just got on the call, so I totally get that. So I'll tell you some of my experiences. So one of the things that I wanted to bring in is that we do, as Julie said, we carry in our own assumptions and beliefs. And it's interesting because both Julie and I are Latinas who are married to white guys. So I'd be, and I know that sometimes we have those kind of cultural differences. And I know for me, I will say that based on my own experience, where I come from a very sort of very warm, affectionate, loud Mexican family, where we're constantly talking. We're very affectionate. And my husband's mom is very sort of she's not like that. I don't want to call her a cold fish. It's just she expresses her love very differently. And even when I've asked my husband about him, it's like, yeah, she was never like that. She's always been that way, kind of very sort of she's just not like that. And it's taken me, like, we've been married for 17 years and together for almost 20, but for a long time I took it personally. I just kept thinking, she doesn't like me, she doesn't like me, she doesn't like me. And so it was really challenging for me to feel ever at home with her. She also has like this very, very different way of communicating about things. For those of you who are familiar with Myers-Briggs, it was really interesting because in evaluating her, she is the exact opposite of me in every single one of those letters. And so I found it really interesting because to look at that, because then I kind of realized, like, I mean, we just speak entirely different emotional languages. And so for me, I'm not saying that I don't still find it challenging to interact with her, but what I have now come to discover is that she does love me. She loves me in her own way. And it was just that I didn't really get initially that it was just her, that it wasn't me. But I think like that's a huge thing, that a lot of the time when you're coming into a new family, you don't even realize your beliefs until you meet somebody different that then challenges you uh, in what you expect love to look like, or kindness. And so that was, so that's actually one of the things that I find really amazing is that the more you interact with people who are different than you and see how they interact, and instead of judging them as like being wrong, or they're not, they shouldn't do it that way, it just gives you the opportunity to expand your own understanding of our humanity, of everybody's humanity, and to be able to be curious and see like, wow, so that's how they show up, and and be curious. So I just wanted to share that it was very interesting for me to come into that, to the marriage, and really, like, for many, many years, like really getting over my belief that she just didn't love me, and realizing that she did, and I just wasn't seeing it because I had a particular thought about what love was supposed to look like. So would love to have anybody else, if you'd like to share. Heather, I know we were talking earlier. I would love, love, love to have you share some of the things you were telling me about. Would you be interested in sharing now?
Oh, sure, I'll share it. So recently, something I've shared it to a few earlier, that I've been recently diagnosed with ADHD, and I've been getting treatment, and I realized that that was like, that getting treatment actually helped me with my relationships with my in-laws and also with my family, but most noticeably with my in-laws. I never realized I had such anxiety or stress with them, and I think that's something like a lot of people just might have with their in-laws, especially when you first meet, your significant others, like family. It's like a big deal. And it was especially a big deal for his family. So then I just thought, like, okay, I had this social awkwardness, and then it kept lingering, and I just thought, I guess this is just how people feel. I did not realize how socially awkward I was until I've been like, I see them recently, and it's just been so easier to carry conversation, and I don't have those thoughts before speaking, and I, interact with them like as if they were my close friends, or with like Steven, I'm just like, and also like more lively, more animated, because I'm like more, because like with this, I'm just focused in the present. I have no other thoughts going in my head, and it's just been amazing. They have noticed it too. I know, like, I can tell, like, they're thinking like, okay, when at first, when they didn't know I started my treatment, I could tell, like, what's going on? Like, is Heather just being nice right now? It's just like, she's never, I can just sense in their eyes. It's just like this is a Heather I guess Steven is with, and like, is this like new, or what's going on? And then when I was talked to them, just said I was, I've been diagnosed and getting treatment, then everything just kind of clicked. And then they've just been so supportive too. But it's just like I thought there was a barrier. And I really thought this is how just my interaction or with my in-laws forever. And I tried, and I guess it just was this. So it's been so relieving. And I just feel like kind of also at peace because I thought like because I was like I tried and I'm just like why like what's going on. So that was just something huge, a huge discovery I made, and it's life changing. And I'm glad to know that there was a light at the end of the tunnel because I honestly thought there was just like I was like this is how it is. I'm like this is how it always is with ever people. But yeah, that's my story. So like I don't know if anyone relates to or maybe not or whatever, but I'm just happy to share.
I mean, I think it's awesome. The reason I wanted you to share is that, I think we're becoming more and more aware of ADHD now, and like more people have it now than we think. Now it's more easily diagnosed in younger kids and stuff. But for those of us who are already adults, it's kind of a retroactive thing, right? And to recognize that this thing that you thought was just your personality was a particular like way of anxiety or something. I just think it's really empowering for people to be aware. So I really am glad you're sharing that, and that it actually impacted how you related to your in-laws, and that you were showing up as an entirely different person. I think that's fascinating. How many people can identify with that? Feel free to put that, if you know anybody like that or you've had that experience, would love to have people share in the chat or anything like that. I'm going to do a real quick reset. Because we haven't yet Luz hasn't yet introduced herself, so I really want her to introduce herself. But before we do, you are in the Amigos club on Clubhouse. It is the largest Latino, Latinas, Latinx club on Clubhouse, but you do not have to be Latino to be part of the club. We welcome everyone. That's why we are called Amigos and not Latinos. And so you are in Empower Hour, which is our weekly room every Tuesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, where we talk about different topics on ways that we can empower ourselves in our daily lives. And so today's topic is in-laws and extended family. So thank you for all of you who are here listening, for people who are catching this on the replay, and would love to invite you to be part of the club, which you can do by joining it, clicking the little green box at the top right under where it says leave quietly and join. And the link that is pinned at the top is the Amigos Discord server, which is where we share and communicate as members. It is a place where we also talk about getting together, have ideas for rooms. If there's ever a room you want to do in the club, it is a very large club. So there is a lot of reach for people who would like to become part of the club. Please join the Discord server. Would love to have you. All righty. Luz, would love, actually, and before I pass it over to Luz, please, if you're in the audience, we would love to have you come up, raise your hand. All are welcome, as long as you have something in your bio and a link in there so we know you're not a bot. We'd love to have you come up and share your thoughts. So, Luz, would you like to share your thoughts about the conversation, in-laws, extended family? What are some of the things that you've encountered and that you would like to share? Over to you.
Hello, hello. This was interesting. Bar, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can still hear you.
Okay. In-laws, my in-laws. Well, from my husband's side, according to him and according to them, they love me. They think I'm the best thing that my husband has ever had a relationship with. Reason being his first wife, that relationship started off wrong, or well, he says it started off wrong. I was just like, that was just dysfunction. Um they he said, I get along with them, but the thing is, I think the reason why I get along with them, right? So my sister-in-law lives in Miami, and then my other in-laws live in Puerto Rico. Interaction with any of them, even the one in Miami. Partly because my husband doesn't interact with his siblings they're much older than him. There's a 10-year difference between him and the last he's the youngest. So there's a lot of things. We are together whenever, we do get together. We have a good time. And it's I would say it's cordial because, like I said, I share a lot with them. Just because I mean, I really cannot really give you. Now on my side, I have just one brother-in-law, and God bless his heart. He's he's an interesting bird, but he's a good guy. I've gotten to know him now as he's gotten older, and I just think that as people get older, and maybe I'm wrong, they just become more mellow, and um at least he's become more mellow, more approachable terms. And I don't have a mother-in-law because when I met my husband, she had been hospitalized and she was on her last. Well, when my husband and I getting our relationship more serious, she had been hospitalized for to get care for Alzheimer's. So I've never had a mother-in-law or a father-in-law, and some people tell me, "Oh, that is such a blessing." I was like, "Okay, I have nothing to go by." My husband would say his in-laws are annoying, judgmental AF, and they're okay people. I hope you heard because the red bar kept flashing. But I'm Luis, and I'm done.
We mostly heard you. Did you say your husband thinks his in-laws, aka your family, are judgmental, annoying, and mostly okay? Is that what you
Yes,
said?
ma'am. Yes. And in that order.
That's funny. He should be on the call. Tell him to come on in.
No, this is
Well,
not
so,
his thing. He's like, no, quédate tú allá con Clubhouse. Yo me quedo acá.
okay, got it. So you get Clubhouse and he's gonna do his own thing. Alrighty. So I don't know. So Nando, I know was doing some other things, but Ale and Herman, would you like to chime in on any of this conversation if you are in a place where you can do that? Or Nando, I see you tapping
Yes,
in.
I'm a
You're
story.
ready, Ale. Dale,
Oh,
Ale.
you can't hear me?
I can. You're cutting in and out, but I
Oh,
can hear you right this minute.
I was gonna say I'm excited to hear Nando and Herman's story because they're together. So go ahead, let's talk shit about each other.
All right, Nando, but they get along. I mean, they're gonna be boring. But no, go ahead,
No,
Nando.
no,
You
make
go
it.
first. Since
No, they
I
just had an argument the other day and he posted about it.
Ooh.
no, but that's about their relationship. This is about how we relate to in-laws and extended family.
Oh, I
Yeah,
thought.
so I have the ultimate and the opposite of going on. So here's, when German and I first started dating, it wasn't too long after that my father passed away. And so early, I mean, we had just started dating, and he saw how distraught I was, and he offered, "Would you like me to come to Texas with you and accompany you?" And I thought that was the sweetest. And I needed somebody, right? Because I was going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And when we landed in Houston to make that connection flight, my dad was gravely ill, and they put him in the hospital. So I flew first flight out in the morning. When we landed in Houston for that connection flight, my mom called me saying that he had passed away. And so, he was there. That's how he got to meet my family. And because it was at a funeral, he got to meet my entire family. And if you know German, like, they immediately gravitated towards him. And you know, for us, when there's a funeral, the family rides in certain cars,
And so I had told German, I'm like, listen, my aunt said that you could ride with her, and my brother-in-law stopped me, and he was like, no, he's part of the family. He's going to ride with us. And I mean, from the moment they met him, they accepted him. And and then then we got married, and that was like 7 years later we got married, and all of that. So I remember, the reason I'm bringing this up is because I remember one day talking to German and saying, if we were to get a divorce, what would you do? And he said, I'd go move in with your mom in Texas. And I was like, that's not how it works. Like, you'll no longer be part. And I was sharing this with my sister, and my sister's like, well, he can move in with me. And I was like, no, guys, you have to be on my side. Like, you can't do that, right? So just to let you know, it's like, that's where we stand. And sometimes I'll walk in and he'll say, oh my God, your Aunt Terry's about to have surgery. And I'm like, how do you know? Because my mom calls him, like, they call him, right? Like, they have such a strong bond and relationship. My sister, my nieces, my mom, right? And so that's their bond, to the point where, listen, one trip, and I don't remember how long we'd been together. I think it was the trip after we got married. And he literally started calling my mom, Mom. And you got to realize, I'm the baby. And let me tell you, the jealousy and that, who did you just call Mom? Right? And my mom looked at me like, what are you doing? And I'm like, no, I'm like literally about to pick a fight with my husband, because that's my mom, right? And so my sister pulled me to the side. Guys, this was before I was transformed. This is before I became a coach, right? And like, it just goes to show like how strong the bond is that they created. And I think it, well, you know how they say like trauma bonding? I mean, there definitely is something true to that, and it's a beautiful thing to see. Now, my in-laws, the thing about that is, a long time ago, when German came out, they disowned him. And so when he and I started dating, he wasn't speaking to his parents. And so they were never part of our journey. And then, little by little, he started reaching out to them. And when he told them that he was seeing someone, they just didn't want to hear it. And then he reached out and said, I married him. And then they really didn't want to hear it. And I just accepted it as that's just the way it is. And I'm okay with it. Would I love to have had conversations with his mom, with his father? Absolutely. But listen, they were in their 80s, right? And so it's just that mindset, we weren't gonna be able to maneuver it. And I respected it. And then his mom passed away not too long ago, so I never got a chance. His dad is still alive. Maybe there's a chance there. I don't know. But yeah, so on German side, the family really isn't too, we don't get to see them. We don't get to really interact with them. My side, even though they're in Texas, there's a lot more connection there. But I would say, I do miss that I didn't have the opportunity to ever speak to the mom. Although the last time he did, when we got married and we went to Mexico and I stayed in a different town so he could spend time with them, because they started opening up to him. And I thought that was a beautiful thing, right? It was a Christmas. And I said, listen, you go spend time with them. Go spend time with them. They're elderly. Just, you yourself haven't seen them in over 15 years. Because you got to remember, German came to the U.S. when he was 15 and undocumented. So he never saw them ever again. And so he got to spend that time with them, and he showed them wedding photos. And they showed interest, but that was it. They asked for my name. And then German's mom was kind of losing her eyesight. And I remember him saying back to me, she couldn't tell which one was me and which one was you, because we used to get that a lot, that you guys look alike, right? So yeah, so that's our story. So we actually have an opposite, like we get along, and I wish I would have had the opportunity to have really got to know them. So yep, I yield my mic.
Nando, that's a beautiful story for a lot of ways, but I could totally see why Herman, I mean, and knowing Herman, I've gotten to know him a little bit over the last couple months. I mean, he just has a huge heart, right? And like that had to have been, and we can let Herman speak about that, but that because that's his story too, about his own family, where um, that sense of not being accepted for who you are, and what you have to then choose, like, do you choose to put your, to change who you are to make the people in your family feel better about you, or do you decide, well, okay, I'm stepping away because this is who I am and I'm sorry you can't accept me. That is one of the most challenging things that every human being has to go through, when there's people they love or people in their family that can't accept you for who you are. And so it was really beautiful, Nando, that your family, I can see why, like, they fell in love with him, because he is such a loving person, and I can just see so much why he gravitated to them as well, because that's the one thing he didn't have. So it's such a beautiful story of how the two of you were able to share your family together, in order to really become one. I want to give it over to Ale, because I know you were going to share. I would love to hear your thoughts either about what Nando shared or your own share on how you are relating to in-laws, extended family. Like if you have any challenges, or if you have the red bar of death, just let us know. But would you like to take over, Ale, and share what you have? Okay, and it looks like you're still mic'd, so I'm gonna assume that you may be in the red bar of death. So, Herman, would you like to share anything following up what Nando said?
Yeah, no, actually, I want to share something that you said, right? Because um, the reason that I also fell in love with his family, and I always I always love going to Texas with them, and I that's like my thing. I want to spend a Christmas with them because they're so loving and caring, and they open me with they because they welcome me with open arms, that I felt I I fell in love with them, right? And because I didn't have that with my family when I came out, I gravitate towards them instead of my family. And so when I came out to my family, it was like, no, don't talk to us, blah blah, blah. You disown, like, don't you ever come present your face in the house. And so when and then Nando's family, it was like the opposite. It was like, oh my God, I want to be around them, um and it, the way have you one person that reminds me so much of them is Carmen, the owner of the palateria and
Yeah, from New
loteria.
Mexico. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
she's so sweet.
yeah, and that's how they are. They're such a just loving and caring, that I think that's the I don't think, I know that that's why I love them, because that's who they are. They're just very caring and loving people. Yeah,
And
that's
just
all I have to say.
yeah, and just one thing to add, to the mix is, I was adopted and my sister was adopted. So I was adopted 3 hours old. They were waiting for me to cross, the midwife birthed me in Mexico, and then they crossed me over undocumented 3 hours later. My parents picked me up. I was raised in Texas. And so I already had a sister 8 years older. And so I think that was crucial to like how I was taught to love, unconditional. Like there was no, like we don't say this is my adopted mother or this is my adopted son, or it's just, and my parents couldn't have kids, yet they were always surrounded by children, by family. And so German coming along was just like, all right, just let's take him under the wing. My only regret is that he didn't get to meet two people, my dad and my aunt, his sister, my aunt Meta. She was crazy, amazing. And we'll do another room on this, but like she had Tourette syndrome. We had no idea. So we just thought she was a wild and crazy human being that everyone just gravitated towards. But anyway, I'll yield my mic there.
Yeah, we should totally do stuff on, maybe we should do a room where we honor our past people that we miss and love that were just great. Like that would be kind of a fun room to do, just to kind of tell stories. So you've just planted that idea in my head, Nando. Thanks for that. One of the things that's so interesting though is that sometimes you do get the whole package, right? Like you fall in love with the person and you fall in love with their family and they fall in love with you. And I had an experience where my previous long-term partner, we didn't get married, but we were together for 6 years. Part of the reason I stayed with him as long as I did is that I fell in love with his family, but we were not a good match. And I was like, I didn't want to lose that family connection, but eventually we had to like we broke up. It just wasn't a good match. But it's really interesting that sometimes when you can fall in love with somebody's family and if they're not the right, and it really sucks if they are themselves not the right person for you. And because that's kind of what happens is like with the breakup, it was unlike, Nando's sister and mom offering Herman to come live there, it becomes like, sorry, you're now cut off. You do not get to have them. And then in my case now, it's like, oh, I mean, I love my husband so much. Like we're just amazing together. And but it took something for me to get used to being married. It's like I don't want to call it like a white family thing because what's funny is that his dad's side, that extended family, they're a freaking hoot and I love them and we get along great. But it's like his mother's side, it's like they're a little more buttoned up, and so I found that to be a really interesting difference because yeah, I had to challenge my own ideas of like, oh, white people are like this, because I'm a Latina, and realizing like, no, people are very different no matter what. Like you can't really stereotype like, oh, the Latin families are like this or the white people are like that. It's been an amazing life trip for me to relate to the in-laws and extended family. I wanted to ask a different question. I think because for a lot of us, one of the things that we may be challenged by as we are adults and our parents and our in-laws or our extended family get older is that we may be challenged in our relationships with them because they are getting older, because maybe they might be running into issues of dementia or things like that. One of the things that I'm running into with my mother-in-law is that she lives in independent living, but and we don't interact with her all that much, just every so often. But it can feel very challenging to do so because we think that she may be starting to get that. It's not memory loss. It's more that she only likes to talk about her stuff and she doesn't show any interest in us, which can feel a little bit like hurtful. And what somebody has told, my sister-in-law, one of my sister-in-laws mentioned that, yeah, that is actually a sign, could be a very early sign of that, of dementia, because they don't know how to interact with new information. So they could be fine in the independent living because it's a ritual, it's a schedule, they talk about all the same things, but you introduce new information and they don't know how to react to it, is kind of what I was told. So that's something that I'm running into that can feel a little bit challenging because it feels like she doesn't care. But um but it's going to be a long ride, right? Like this is our future. So I just wanted to like throw that out there and ask, have other people been encountering that part of your experience that may be challenging with in-laws or extended family or older parents is as they change and as they age. So I'll open it up to anybody who would like to share on that, and welcome people to come up to stage if you'd like to do that.
So I'd like to share a little bit of my experience, not with my husband's family, but with my ex-husband's family. I encountered a lot of that still when I was married to him. He had elderly aunts and uncles, and one of the aunts that we were very close to, she never had children, and we um, we kind of because she was a flight attendant with Delta, we had all her flight privileges. And one of the things that, although we lived in New York and we would visit her in Miami, I started to notice is that she was exhibiting some of the signs of dementia, of Alzheimer's. And really, the family really, although, they loved me and they valued me, when I started to bring up, hey, I think she has dementia, I think she is not going to be able to keep flying, I was really received not in a great way, because it's a difficult conversation to have. And although again, like I said, I was with him for 15 years. um, it's not easy for someone who is an outsider in essence, right, to be able to talk about these difficult situations. So you have to really be able to navigate them with grace, and you also have to be able to navigate them with integrity. And I think that for me, if you know me, if I'm thinking something, I will most likely tell you. I am very outspoken, and my husband is laughing in the background, of course. I am, and for me, that is something that even with Dan's family, when it comes to health, I am very opinionated and will advocate and say, hey, you need to take care of this, you need to take care of that. But ultimately, for me, what the reason I do that is because I feel that we have to be able to be advocates for our health. We have to be able to speak up and ask questions and never take no for an answer when it comes to health, and just make assumptions without really having the best care. So in both instances, with my ex and with my husband now, I am always the one who, I don't care if you're going to be mad at me for saying so, but I want to be able to say, hey, you need to take care of this. Or look, maybe this is something that we should consider, because that is so crucial. And if we don't have our health, we don't have anything. So I yield the mic.
Thanks so much for that, Julie. Yeah, that sometimes if we do notice things, that it can be challenging to bring it up in a way that it will be received. Um, and how did that end up going for you, Julie, with the aunt and all that? If you want to tell what ended up happening, we'd love to hear.
The situation escalated so tremendously. One of the signs of the dementia for her is that she was very paranoid, and she lived alone. And one of the things that she would continue to just tell everybody, that her neighbors were, and that you're going back at least 12 years now, we're installing cameras and we're watching her, and they were smoking crack, and then it was coming through the walls. And she lived in a very elite community. And one of the things that I kept saying is, like, we need to check up on her. Maybe she's talking about this, and maybe it's not really happening. We need to go into it. And then when the family in Miami actually was able to go in and check up on her, they realized that she had become a hoarder. You couldn't really even walk into the house. She was very disoriented as well. And although it was a hard reality to think of, because at the time she was still flying, she was still a flight attendant. She was 70 years old, and she looked like she was 20, because she played tennis every single day of her life that she wasn't flying. So it was very difficult to admit that she wasn't like your normal 70-year-old, that it's kind of like a little decrepit. So um, being able to know what you know, and stand and be supportive and provide the right resources. And I think that, not letting, and for me, I had to also get out of my own way, in the sense that I knew I was right, but I also needed to give them the space to be able to admitting that something was wrong meant that there needed to be action for that. And, they put her in a home, in assisted living, and to this day, she continues to thrive. So this is someone who, again, is in her late 80s and is doing well because she was able to get the care. But it really meant the family coming together and acknowledging that something needed to be done as a family coming together and really having the candid, courageous conversations that sometimes we avoid because we don't want to rock the boat. And I am always going to be the one who is going to say something because you need to be able to have those courageous conversations because the outcome is better than the alternative of not having the difficult conversations.
Julie, that's really great. I'm glad that that ended up working out well and that she's still thriving and got the care she needed in part because, you really advocated for her and for taking care of that. And that is really important. I don't know how it is for other of us because for me, I've kind of grown up with this idea and that I am not gonna tell I'm gonna tell like maybe like that you're gonna tell your partner the stuff, but you don't tell the in-laws the stuff. Like you make the partner tell them. So I think that sometimes being able to go beyond just going through your spouse or your partner to advocate for a family member is really important. I will say that in my case, again, like that cultural difference is super interesting. I wanted to ask, like, and I find this is like really fascinating when I think of like, so Julie, because I know you don't have kids with Dan, Nando and German, have a dog together, but it's not the same thing. But I had always had this thought that I had to really dismantle that. So my husband and I
I
were
beg
not.
your pardon.
That's so
Right? It's
funny.
the same
My
thing.
daughter, oh my God, for real? Like, how can you say that?
The dog daughter. Right. Okay, but the reason I mentioned that, Nando, is only because I know how Nando was saying like before he got coaching and all transformed, he had all his fears and stuff. Well, I had a huge amount of these. So these were my fears before I got coaching. Is that I felt like I was never going to really fit in unless I procreated with my husband so that there was like a child that had both of our genes together. And part of that again was because I was running around feeling like I don't belong anywhere. And so we did not end up having children together. It was not something that we tried and it didn't work out. And we do have a stepdaughter. I mean, I have a stepdaughter, his daughter from his first marriage. And when we started dating, she was 6, and then she was 9 when we got married. So she's a beautiful 26-year-old young woman now. But one of the things about it is that she like for the longest time I just felt like um well, okay, especially my husband got diagnosed with cancer 4 years ago and he still has it. And there's this like little bit of me that it's like, oh, well, if he dies before I do and before my mother-in-law dies, um I'm not going to be really included in, her will. Like I have that thought. And of course she can do whatever she wants, but it's still just the most interesting thing, right? Because my brother-in-law, my husband's brother, he has that same thought that but it turns out that, he had to go and tell his mother that, hey, mom, if I go before you, you better make sure you take care of Kathy. Because it turns out that my concern is a valid one, that she has never made me or Kathy feel like we're really part of the family and we're just kind of appendages, even though Kathy did procreate and brought her a grandchild. I did not. So it's one of those things that it's kind of this interesting thing of me being aware of my own fear that I don't really belong. Um, but then when I think about it, it's like, well, even Kathy doesn't feel she really belongs because I've had this conversation with her. I've had this conversation with my brother-in-law Wayne. My mother-in-law, she's her own thing and she may not do things that we like or that we wish she would do to show her love, but we do know that she loves us. And it's just I'm sharing this mostly because even though I am transformed and I now believe I belong and it doesn't really matter, there's still going to be those times that it comes up. There's going to be those times that I have that fear. And I just kind of wanted to share that because it's both because of how she acts sometimes, and it's because of my own upbringing, my own trauma that I continue to resolve, that I bring. And I think that the most empowered thing we can do is to really just be honest with that. Like, instead of me pretending that everything's hunky dory, it's like, I'm gonna own to my husband that it's like, yeah, sometimes I'm afraid I don't really belong, that she doesn't really love me, that she's going to leave me out of the will or whatever. Less because I care about the money and more because of what that would symbolize. And I also know that she loves me and I love her. And those are all true. All of those things are true. And I just kind of wanted to share that because I don't know, I think that that can be the case for sometimes for us, that we can sometimes feel like there's a that we somehow should be 100% happy with the people in our lives, and it's okay to accept that we may not always see eye to eye, that I may still be anxious, that I may still fear it and still feel that love. So I just kind of wanted to share that because, again, you can have transformation and still be human and have human feelings. I'm delighted. Oh, Jessica, yay. Jessica, I would love to have you share. We have about 4 minutes left, and I'm okay if we go a little bit over, but would love to hear you share your thoughts on the topic. What would you like to say? Over to you, Jessica.
Well, I mean, I know my in-laws hate me, like openly too. They've expressed it. And I think part of it is like there's a cultural dynamic there. I grew up in a home where my mom is a very independent, strong voice. I am the opposite of every woman in my husband's family. They have literally communicated to other people how much they dislike me because I'm Puerto Rican and because my husband can't get me to obey him. I mean, one, it's because I just grew up in that kind of environment, but like not so much like fuck men, but more or less just like I'm allowed to have a voice in a space. And then two, I think it also has to just do with like the trauma that, my in-laws have gone through. Part that and part they're just assholes. Like, and it is what it is. And I think that for me, I've we recently had a situation that was very interesting. And, it looked more like my husband, I had communicated something to him. And whenever I come into this space, it was like, um, whatever his mom says goes. And it was weird. And there's a lot of enmeshment there. And so for me, I'm the type of person who like speaks out against what is wrong and what, in the sense of like, you don't treat people like that and then expect them to respond in a nice way, because that's just not me. And they, they'll push everything under the rug and act like everything's okay, and that's not me. So I actually wasn't there. I hadn't seen them in like 6 months. And for a while it was like, okay, yes, baby. But when there's kids involved, it becomes a whole different dynamic. And so, you have to learn, like what you're willing to put up with. And then also, okay, baby. Um, and so much so that like, I'm at that space where I'm like, I want to get as far away from toxic people as I possibly can. I grew up with seeing my mother being treated kind of like the way I'm being treated now. And it was really hard to watch as a child. And because of that, like, I don't have a strong relationship with they have a strong relationship with my uncle and my grandfather now because I'm older. Oh, cool. My kids are throwing little tiny pieces of cereal everywhere. So, I think just to kind of wrap it up, but at the end of the day, people are going to be who they're going to be, and you can only do so much. And so I think for me, when there's kids involved, I'm kind of like, well, if you're going to not be kind to me, then you're not going to build a relationship with them until they're old enough to make that decision for themselves. Until then, like, I'm going to continue to protect my peace as well as their peace. And Does it cause strain in the relationship? Of course, because those are people that are important to my family member or like the person that I'm in a relationship with. But at the same time, it's their responsibility to advocate on my behalf because that's not my job. And honestly, if I were to say something, it'd be an episode of Jerry Springer. So I've just learned to sit back.
Jessica, that's so good because what you're describing is not uncommon, right? Just I wanted to ask you how does your partner, your spouse, is he supportive of you? And also, are you living near the family? Like, do you need to interact with them a lot?
Oh yeah, I want to say like we live about like 15, 20 minutes away. We don't have to, but at the same time, it's like one of those things where, they're important to him. So obviously, it becomes one of those things where I think the way I can put it is I grew up with my mom being very involved in my life. So I always wanted her opinion to take precedence in my choices. And it was so uncomfortable for me to do something for my own happiness. So I think we both struggle with that, right? Because it's like if my mom's opinion is something that weighs heavy, or his family's opinion weighs something heavy on him, like those opinions matter to us. So I think we struggle with that, but I think I've gone to enough therapy and counting to say that like I've made peace with this is an uncomfortable feeling that I'm gonna have to work through and deal with. Him, he is he's supportive at times, but then also when you have like 8 to 10 people that all have the same viewpoint, sometimes that can drown out realities. Also, too, I realize that sometimes certain realities are a core value. And so when there's culture involved and core values involved, that can be a really hard thing to come against. And so it takes time and it takes like unlearning. And that has been for me too. So I'm not sitting here saying like I have all the answers. There's still times where my mom's voice had a bigger value in the conversation to the point where it would cause conflict. And so that's hard when you have old school versus new school. And then also, I will say he's part of that, like, what is it, the 1.5%, where like his, like, our kids are Americanized, his family is from Mexico. They're still very traditional in their views. And he's kind of caught in between these two worlds where he's not Mexican enough for America, but not American or not, what is it? Yeah, he's not American enough for America, but Mexican enough for Mexico. And then we have like these two different cultures. And then here I am, New Yorican, who's like, tell it like it is. So there's this weird dynamic that kind of goes on in our house because my mom was at 1.5% as well. And so now I'm like, she struggles with a lot too. So I think I'm kind of like, yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing, Jessica. And I think like what you shared is so pertinent to so many Latinos who have, who could be like first gen born and raised in this country. And I am one of those, where, if I go hang out in Mexico, I'm not really that Mexican, but for a long time being in this country, I didn't feel very American. And it took some time to really find myself, like really uh embrace that, the fact that I am both and neither and something else in between, and something else as well. And I think that you're doing amazing work in being aware of those things, right? Of and I just want to commend you really because like you said, sometimes you have to choose if it's important to you to just be able to set a boundary. That's not the word you use, but that's the word I use, to be able to just say, yeah, I'm not engaging with that. And that really in the end it can be uncomfortable to say a boundary for your own sake, that you're not going to engage with things with somebody who maybe isn't treating you with respect, even though they're a person that is very loved by your loved ones. So I think you're doing a great job, and that is one of those things that a lot of the time we just there's not like this happy, there's not necessarily going to be a happy, a quote, perfect ending where everybody just gets along. It's not a Disney movie, right? Sometimes, they don't, our parents or their parents don't figure it out. And what you're doing is empowering yourself by being aware of what matters to you and kind of like picking your battles, like you said, and really understanding that sometimes it's going to be uncomfortable, but you're choosing the thing that you are aligned to that is right for you. And I don't know if you were here before where German and Nando were talking about how German's family had kind of disowned him when he had come out. And but families will do what, like you said, people are going to do what they're going to do, and our power lies in deciding how we're going to respond to it. Like, are we going to be embittered and pissed off and get mad that they shouldn't be that way? Are we going to try to change ourselves to accommodate ourselves, or are we going to be ourselves and kind of decide, this is who I am and this is what matters to me, and I get you're going to be that way, but it does not negate my own value and worth because you don't think that I'm worthy. So I really appreciate your share, Jessica, and I think that's such a valuable thing for all of us to think about. We've gone a little bit over, so I just want to like wrap this up, but I want to let the mods on the in the who are still left. I know some of our other mods had to go. Just give you a chance to to share one last thing. If there's anything you would like people to know about what's coming up for you in the next week that maybe people want to know, I invite people who are in the room or who are following to check out your mods, your different people who are in the room, because obviously we are all aligned spirits. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this conversation. So get to know each other, see what everyone else is up to. Nanda, would you like to say anything before we wrap it up? And hey, Danai, oh, where did she go? She went down to the speakers. But Nando, is there anything you'd want to say before we go? That anything that's coming up for you, please?
Yeah, I think I'll end with this. You know, whatever your experience is, yes, you're experiencing that, but just consider that it's a different experience over there where they're at. And if you can each get into each other's worlds, or at least you can get into their world, it might not soften the blow, but it'll have you be on a different path in how you interact with them. So that's, if anybody's interested on how to doing that, just reach out to me.
Absolutely, Nando. So good that, yeah, a lot of it, that our power is in our mindset and how we choose to perceive what's happening. And there is a lot of power in choosing to be curious about what's going on for them versus deciding that maybe they're just trying to hurt me, that maybe it has nothing to do with you. That's my interpretation of what you said, but definitely reach out to Nando if you have questions about that. And I'm also a coach, so I would love, to anybody to connect if that's something you're interested in. Herman, would you like to share anything? Final words?
Final words is that resentment doesn't take you anywhere, right? It creates more power to the other person, right? Because it's giving them the power of like, oh, they're right, or I'm winning, right? So resentment doesn't take you anywhere. And trust me when I say this, because I lived with resentment towards my parents for a really long time, and it didn't do anything. So, yeah, that's it.
Great point. Yeah, exactly. And resentment is human and a normal first response when somebody is telling us there's something wrong with us and we should be different. And yet, once you realize that that's what's happening, get yourself out of that as soon as you can, because that's what's going to help you thrive and grow more than if you stay in it. Julie, would you like to have any final words for us?
Thank you, Susie. I want to just close the room with something that I've learned both in my extended family of origin and also with my husband and my practice spouse's family. Number one is take responsibility for the way that you communicate silently. And I know that I talked about previously about being outspoken and saying your words and whatnot, but there's also nonverbal communication that takes place in our interactions with family. And sometimes our actions and our nonverbal cues communicate a lot. So if you are feeling uncomfortable, if you're visiting and maybe you feel kind of like an outsider, watch your nonverbal communication, because that's also what is impacting that interaction with somebody else. And last but not least, our actions will always have a lasting impression on the people around us. And I just came off a room where we were talking about apologizing and apologies and the importance of saying you're sorry. So it is very important that if for some reason, there's discord or you're not at peace with your family of origin, or family by marriage, make sure that your actions are congruent and speak louder than maybe your words did. And that will continue to solidify and help you grow as an individual, but also grow together as a family. So, and with that, I am yielding my mic.
Thank you so much, Julie. Absolutely. That's so valuable to have us pay attention to, maybe we're biting our tongue, but are we rolling our eyes or whatever the heck we're doing? What I want to leave folks with is that, yeah, your ultimate power comes from how you manage how do you manage your mind, but really also how you manage yourself emotionally. And when we feel like we have issues with other people, whether it's our in-laws or extended family, um, or just anyone, there are definitely times that those people are taking actions or saying things that are, you know not loving of us, like what happened with Herman, or what may have happened with Jessica, who was up here before. um at the same time, our power is always in our ability to decide how we're going to take that in, and that the number one thing is that we most feel um, powerless when we feel unsafe, when we are feeling like we're being attacked, when we feel like we don't belong. And so, in any relationship, but especially with in laws and extended family, the more that you can practice really believing in your own self worth, and that, that people can say the things they say, or not say the things you want them to say, that people can act the way they act or not act how you want, but that you can choose to have your own sort of sovereignty in yourself of being like, this does not damage who I am. I know who I am. I I belong here and I'm safe no matter what they might think or say or do. To me, that has been probably the most empowering thing that I have come to learn, because then my feelings of safety don't come by whether people tell me something or don't tell me something. I get to generate that inside. And then I get to do what Julie says. I show up in a much more loving, curious way. What Nando said about being curious is, when I feel safe in myself and in my being, then I can actually create the relationships that I really long to create. And that is what I have been doing with my mother-in-law. I won't say it's always easy, but I know that when I am going to be spending time, I know how to take care of my brain and my nervous system ahead of time, so that I feel really empowered going into it. And so that when I'm there, I'm also ongoingly checking myself and being like, okay, you're being triggered. All right, we're okay. This isn't about you. This is just how she is. And this is just reminding you of something in the past that used to make you feel scared, but you're actually safe here. And so that's what I wanted to offer, that the power, we have our power to take care of ourselves emotionally and mentally. And that is something that I invite you to explore further in your lives. So thank you all for being here, for those who came in person, those who are catching this on the replay. Thank you so much to my awesome co-mods who, they're my ride and die group. I love you guys so much. Nando, German, Julie, and Luz and Ale, who had been here before. And thank you all for joining us, for being part of the conversation. Again, we're going to have this room every week, but next week, because I'm going to be on vacation with my in-laws, living all in one giant house in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, where I will be bringing all oh, I see Danai raising her hand, so let me go ahead and bring you up, Danai, before we close up. But we won't be having this room next week, but come back in 2 weeks at 6 p.m. Eastern time on Thursday, and we will have that room. Danai, I invited you up. Are you able to come up? Let's see. ¿Qué pasó? There you are. Would you like to say any final words? This is our beautiful, awesome founder of this club, Danai. What would you like to share?
Hey, Susie, thank you. I'm so sorry. I just was able to hop in here for the last few minutes. As always, I love this room. So, I'll be tuning into the replay to catch up on it. So, thank you for holding this space. And yeah, I would love to remind everybody that, we have an event coming up on the 21st. And it's our partnership with Comcast, where we are promoting their Comcast Rise initiative that is here to give away grants to minority and women-owned businesses that and that includes grants of $10,000. It includes technology upgrade grants. It includes video makeovers, like all kinds of amazing stuff. It's millions and millions of dollars that they're pouring into this initiative. So really, really excited about that. That's going to be on the 21st. Feel free to jump into our Discord server. We have the links in there. And yeah, I'm super excited about that. So thank you for giving me a moment to shout that out. This is Dana, and I'm done speaking.
Awesome, Danai. Do you know what time that's going to be, or is it an all-day thing?
It's going to be at 3:30 p.m. On Tuesday, June 21st.
Okay, and is that going to be in Clubhouse, or will it be through another way people will access it?
We're going to do that on Clubhouse. We're actually going to have as our guests some of the staff from Comcast that works on this program. And we're also going to have a few grant recipients who have received the grant, and they're going to talk to us about, how it's impacted their businesses and what it was like going through the program and all that stuff.
Beautiful. So so let me just reiterate for anyone listening, anyone catching the replay, it's going to be on June 21st. You said that's a Tuesday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. So there will be a Clubhouse room on that. It'll be, and can you tell us just one more thing, Danai? What's the value for us in coming? I definitely want to come because I'm excited to hear about all these initiatives that we are doing for the Latino community, but I would love to hear more because we want to really get people to see like why they should come. Can you tell us a little bit more?
Absolutely. So the program is so they are looking for Latino small businesses to help out. And that's why we're partnering with them in the Amigos community. But they're also looking for Black-owned small businesses. They're looking for women-owned small businesses, basically minorities and women. And this is their answer to, how COVID has basically decimated minority businesses. And so the value to those of us that are going to be attending is we get to ask them questions about the program. We get to ask them, what does it take to be accepted into the program? What does the program entail? How are you helping businesses? What can I do to be better suited to receive a grant? And again, it's not like they're picking 5 businesses and awarding grants. These millions and millions of dollars that they're putting into it, they've awarded, oh my gosh, hundreds of small minority-led businesses. So it's an amazing program. And yeah, it's going to be an amazing room.
That is so awesome. And Consuelo also said she's so excited to attend. And that's great to know because it sounds like it's not just about past recipients and what's happening, but this is an opportunity for those of us who minority women who own our own small businesses to come learn about the opportunities being provided by Comcast and maybe apply in the future. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for that, Danai. I wanted to make sure that it was clear for those folks who are still in the room or for anybody catching the replay. Uh, Now that is empowerment that, that is coming our way, very, very much so. So we do hope to see everybody, pass it along to anybody who is a small business owner, who is a person of color or a woman, so they can join us in the room 3:30 p.m. Eastern time on June 21st, and we will make sure to keep announcing that because we want to have as many people as possible support as many communities, minority communities, women communities, businesses as we can. So with that, thank you guys all again for being here. Thank you for hanging out for as long as we did. We did go 20 minutes over. But I will see you guys not next week, but the following week. So next week I'm on vacation with my beautiful in-laws in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, and your Empower Hour assignment is for you to have a wonderful week next week. All right. Thanks so much, everybody. If you're on the stage, feel free to say goodbye. And we're gonna go ahead and close the room in a couple seconds. Bye, everyone.
Bye
Bye,
bye. Have a good
everybody.
night.
Bye,
Don't
everyone.
forget, go
Good night.
confidently.